How close are we to World War III? An unsettling question, isn't it? Yet, it's a question that's become increasingly relevant in today's volatile geopolitical landscape. We're living in a world where nations are more interconnected than ever, and the ripple effects of conflict can be felt globally. We've seen wars before, but the scale and implications of a third world war would be unprecedented. This is a question we can't afford to ignore. A question that begs contemplation, discussion, and perhaps preparation. The answer might be more worrying than you think. Around the globe, we're witnessing an alarming escalation in tensions. From the chilling frost of the Arctic to the scorching deserts of the Middle East, fault lines are emerging and deepening, threatening to fracture the world order as we know it. Just take a look at the recent conflicts and crises that have erupted. In the past year alone, we've seen territorial disputes flare up, trade wars intensify, and diplomatic relations reach breaking point. The world's most powerful nations are not just flexing their muscles, they're actively engaging in a high-stakes game of brinkmanship. In parallel to this, we're observing an unprecedented proliferation of nuclear weapons. More countries than ever before now possess the capability to unleash absolute destruction. The genie is out of the bottle, and the specter of nuclear war, once a distant threat, is now an ever-present shadow. Coupled with this is a disturbing rise in nationalism and authoritarianism. Democracy, the very cornerstone of our modern society, is being undermined and eroded. Leaders are consolidating power, stoking fear and division, and using the rhetoric of us versus them to justify their actions. These are not just random occurrences or isolated incidents, they are the symptoms of a world on the brink, a world teetering on the edge of a precipice. The global chessboard is being set, the pieces are moving and the stakes are higher than they've ever been. These are not just isolated incidents, but part of a larger, more ominous picture. History, as they say, tends to repeat itself. The chronicles of the past are not just dusty pages in a history book, they are lessons, warnings, and sometimes chilling prophecies of what might be in store for us. Looking back, the onset of the first two world wars were marked by similar patterns. The world was caught in the grip of political instability, economic volatility, and social unrest. Nations were at odds, alliances were formed, and tensions were simmering just beneath the surface. The world was a powder keg, waiting for a spark to ignite it. Fast forward to the present, the parallels are uncanny, political instability is rife. Nations, once allies, are viewing each other through the lens of suspicion. Economies are teetering on the brink of recession. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is widening, and social unrest is a daily reality in many parts of the world. It's as if we're walking a path we've trodden before, one that led us to the brink of self-destruction not once, but twice. But it's not just the political, economic, and social climate that's eerily similar. The rhetoric of war, the drumbeats of conflict, they're all too familiar. The world leaders of today echo the sentiments of their predecessors, speaking in veiled threats and promises of retribution. It's a dangerous game of chess, where the pawns are not just pieces on a board, but entire nations and their people. In the words of Mark Twain, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. As we stand on the precipice of what could be another global conflict, the rhymes of history are deafening. The circumstances that led to the first two world wars are not just echoes in the annals of history. They're reverberating through our present, a stark reminder of the path we could be headed down. The echoes of the past are becoming increasingly loud and clear. In the shadows, the war machines are gearing up. Like silent predators, advancements in military technology are rapidly transforming the face of warfare. We are no longer in an era of bayonets and battleships. We've crossed the threshold into a realm where artificial intelligence, unmanned drones, and cyber warfare rule the battlefield. This isn't science fiction. This is the stark reality of 21st century conflict. The world's major powers are in an arms race, not just for supremacy, but for survival. Defense spending is skyrocketing globally. Billions upon billions are being funneled into research and development of new weapons systems. The goal? To gain an edge, however slight, in a world teetering on the brink of chaos. What's more, the number of active military personnel worldwide is swelling, a reflection of the rising tensions and the growing sense of uncertainty. These men and women stand ready, trained to respond at a moment's notice to a call to arms. Each soldier, a cog in the war machine, prepared to fight in battles that we hope will never come. But it's not just about the soldiers or the high-tech weaponry, it's about the stockpiling of weapons. From nuclear arsenals to chemical and biological weapons, nations are amassing terrifying arrays of destructive power. These are not just deterrents, they are reminders of the unthinkable devastation that a global conflict would unleash. The complex web of alliances, rivalries, and power struggles is drawing tighter, strained by the weight of these military buildups. Every new weapon, every additional soldier, every dollar spent on defense is a thread pulling us closer to the precipice of World War III. The stage, it seems, is being set for a global showdown. A showdown that would redefine the world as we know it. The war machines are ready. The question is, are we? But let us not forget the immense human cost of war. As we delve into this sobering reality, it's crucial to remember that behind every statistic is a life, a story, and a world forever altered by the horrors of conflict. Wars don't just leave their marks on the battlefield. They seep into our societies, destabilizing economies, tearing families apart, and leaving deep scars on the psyche of nations. The world wars of the 20th century, for instance, led to the death of 60 million people. That's the equivalent of wiping out the entire population of Italy today. Each of these lives represented a unique individual, with dreams, hopes, and loved ones. War also brings with it a devastating economic toll. The cost of World War II, in today's dollars, is estimated to be over $4 trillion. That's more than the GDP of Germany, the world's fourth largest economy. This financial burden is not just shouldered by the governments, but trickles down to every individual, leading to increased taxes, inflation, and a decrease in living standards. Moreover, the societal impact of war is profound and long-lasting. It disrupts education, leads to increased crime rates, and creates a generation of children growing up in the shadows of conflict. The psychological trauma inflicted on these young minds can echo through generations, creating a cycle of violence and unrest. In our interconnected world, the ripple effects of a global conflict would reach every corner of the globe, affecting even those far removed from the immediate battle zones. The supply chains that feed our economies, the international institutions that maintain our global order, the very fabric of our societies could all be thrown into chaos. In the face of such potential devastation, preparedness is paramount. As we stand on the precipice of potential conflict, it's crucial to remember these costs, to understand the profound impact that war can have on our world. This understanding, this knowledge, is our best defense against the horrors of war. It's our responsibility as global citizens to be aware, to be prepared, and to do everything in our power to prevent such a catastrophe. The warning signs are all around us. As we've journeyed through the unsettling question of our proximity to World War III, we've explored the rising global tensions, the echoes of the past, the war machines, and the human cost. The world as we know it is on a razor's edge, teetering between an era of peace and a chasm of chaos. We've seen the geopolitical squabbles that are increasingly resembling a powder keg, ready to explode. We've looked back at history, reflecting on the lessons we've learned from the two world wars of the last century. We've examined the war machines of today, the technological advancements that have made conflict all the more deadly. And we've considered the human cost, the immeasurable toll of lives lost, families torn apart, and societies shattered. Yet the purpose of this exploration is not to instill fear, but to awaken awareness. The signs are there, but they are not a prophecy set in stone. They are warnings, alarms that call us to action. The power to change the course of history is not just in the hands of politicians and generals, it's in ours too. In recognizing these signs, we take the first step towards preventing a potential global conflict. It's not enough to merely ask how close we are to World War III. We must also ask what we can do to prevent it. The answer to that question begins with understanding, empathy, and a commitment to peace. It's time to ask ourselves not how close we are to World War III, but what we can do to prevent it. Thank you for watching. Remember, knowledge is power. Stay curious, stay informed, and we will see you next time.